Hi, I'm Martia Lamb, and this is Composting 101. We're going to go over the 3 steps for composting and making great dirt so that you can use in your garden. This is my compost can. Now, you can get these really cheap. You can actually use any old can, but I decided to get one that has a nice label. It also has the top with a little bit of a filter. It's not a screw top, though. It's on there very loosely. Now the compost can, it can be casual. You can actually use a plastic bag if you want. I prefer something with a little bit of structure, but that's up to you. I go with a bag on the inside just to make it easy for me. There are some people that recommend that you don't have a bag inside your compost pile, that you just put the scraps in there just naked, and that's okay. I do it to make it easy because I have a little wet, I have a little wet stuff. When I do my oatmeal, leftover oatmeal or whatever, I'll put it in there, and I don't want it to make the inside of the can wet. Anyway, so this is where you're going to put all your non-meat, non-dairy stuff. Anything that grows in the ground, anything that has roots, your food that went bad in the fridge, your leftovers scraped out of your plate, stuff scraped out of your food processor, any sort of vegetable that you don't want to eat can go in here. Just make sure the chunks aren't too big, no more than like a 1/2 inch square. Anyway, you don't want to do any sort of meat. No fish, no chicken, no beef, no pork, no sort of animal whatsoever, because when you're going to eventually put this outside, and you don't want to have scavengers to come and root through your stuff and be attracted to your property. And it also brings more of a smell, and it's not good for the compost in general. That includes dairy, like cheeses and stuff like that, except for eggshells. Eggshells are okay, as long as they're dry. So we've got the compost. This is what you're going to start with. This can be in your kitchen, by your back door, wherever you're going to be able to easily and conveniently put your food scraps in. So let's start with some food scraps. Here I've got some food scraps that came straight out of my food processor. I was cutting up some onions and the outside layer of the onions and whatever else I had. So you just put it straight in there. No problem. That's what it's meant for. If it's, disgusting and gross, put it in there. If it comes off your plate and you don't want to eat it, put it in there. I've also got some other stuff that's a little bit more moist. So I'm going to stick in there some of my burnt oatmeal. I stuck it in there. So once you have your food scraps in there, a lot of people are concerned about flies and fruit flies and what have you, and the smell. So this is where your handy dandy coffee grounds come in. Coffee grounds are also a nitrogen base. They grow off the ground, so they're considered green for compost purposes. So you take this, and you can just, in your kitchen, have this. I got this free from Starbucks. And just put a little bit of coffee grounds on top. Coffee grounds discourage flies and pests. They're also a nitrogen, and they give you a pretty decent smell if you're okay with, a little bit of coffee smell, so that you won't have to worry about stuff like that. So we've got a nice little green nitrogen cooking here. You're just going to wait till it fills up, until you feel like going out. And then guess what we're going to do? We're going to take it outdoors. You ready to go? All right. We're going to take it over here. Here's a little mess. It is horrible. So here we are. We're close to the, this is the place where your compost is going to actually live. You see right here inside, I've already got some of what's called carbon or browns. This is paper shredding, and you can take your shredded paper, newspaper, shredded cardboard, and you can put it in there. Anything that's paper that doesn't have a lot of color, you don't want a lot of dyes, but this is going to be the layering. You're going to have greens, which is your nitrogen, which is your stuff that grows out the ground, your food and stuff, and coffee grounds. And then you're going to have your carbon, which is your wood base, stuff made out of wood, paper, wood shavings, whatever. And it's going to be in the initial 2/3 green to 1/3 brown. And you can go a little bit one way or the other. So you're going to have a layer, 2/3 layer of green or this good stuff right here. And then you're going to have one layer of the brown, of the paper or the wood type. So right now you can see because there's a paper here or the brown, there's no flies, there's no drama, and that's always a good idea to end with a brown, to end with your paper type stuff or your wood shavings. And you're just going to come and toss it out here. Now, some people again are concerned with flies and what have you, and smell. So you can always, because coffee grounds are a green, because they're considered a nitrogen base, coffee beans grow out of the ground, you can take and you can put the nitrogen type right on top, and that's going to deal with your smell, and it's going to discourage the flies and little critters that come around. You do have to have a certain size. You can't keep it this size the whole time. This will never compost into real dirt because it's not large enough to get you the temperatures that you need. You need you should really at least have 2 feet by 3 feet. And then you just do your layering. You're going to do 2/3 of the greens, of the stuff that grows out of the ground, 1/3 of the paper type, the carbon. And you always want to leave carbon on top so that you will have less problem with, critters and smells or what have you. That's what people really complain about the most, is the flies and blah, blah, blah. That's why we leave it with the paper. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on my YouTube channel, and have a blessed day.